Hello. I've been asked to make a new SourceOps tutorial. I guess the old one is too outdated to be useful anymore. Sure. I'll delete everything and purge orphans. I guess if you don't have power save, that would be under file cleanup version use data. Doesn't really matter. I'm doing it anyway. I'll save the file as just something somewhere so that I have it. I'll add a cube because you can't use the default cube. You got to remove it and add a new one. No, you don't. I'm joking, but that's the guy we're going to export today. I'll add a game. I don't care about the name right now. I'll do Momentum mod because I have it installed. Momentum mod playtest momentum accept. I think that was correct, and it ascertained that the bin folder is bin win64 for this game. But yeah, when in doubt, you should check if the bin folder you set contains executables such as HLMV and most importantly Studio MDL. There it is, Studio MDL. You need that one to be in the bin folder. And don't just like make a new folder and then copy paste a Studio MDL executable in there. That doesn't make sense. It needs the surrounding files too. But anyway, we've got a game set up. Now, I'll name this one Mom, which is short for Momentum mod. Now this is stored in your preferences, but changing it here doesn't actually like save your preferences. So if you want to make sure that this is saved, you can go here, save preferences, like in the corner in your preferences. And now this is saved. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna add a model. I don't care what it's called. The armature is empty because I'm not rigging this guy right now. I will later. This entire thing is improvised, so if it's going to be a long video, but, just feel free to skip around. Reference, I'm going to set this collection. It doesn't let me set a collision collection. Why is that? I'll tell you why. It's because this would not make valid collision. And a lot of people in the past tried to set the reference and collision to the same collection because they don't know what these things mean. And then it doesn't work for them because it doesn't make sense. So as of a few versions ago, I guess, have made it impossible to set these to the same collection because that's not the correct use case. Like, it doesn't make sense to do that at all, ever. I digress. So if you want a collision for this model, I'll show how to do that in a second. But first, I'll make this a static prop because we don't have an armature. Actually, I think it automatically does this for you if you haven't set an armature, so I don't even need to take that. But and by it, I mean SourceOps. We'll do that for you automatically. I'm not speaking too quick for my non-native speakers to keep up. This cube is obviously very small. It's 2 hammer units across. Let's scale that up by 42, so it's 64 hammer units across, and let's move it up to there so that it's on the ground. None of this is necessary right now. Let's just go save my file. I'm going to click the auto icon, which will export the meshes, in this case as SMD because I have it set to SMD over here. Not every game will support FBX, but it's there if you want a UV2. Like a second UV layer for CSGO. Not CS2, CSGO. Important to note. CS2 runs on Source 2, an entirely different engine from the Source engine that SourceOps is made for. If you want to export something for Source 2, don't try to use SourceOps. You might as well be trying to use it to export to Unreal. It doesn't work like that. You just export to like FBX directly and then put that into Hammer 2 or whatever. I don't know. I haven't messed with Source 2, but you don't use any of this QC, Studio MDL stuff to make models for Source 2. So CS2 and CSGO, not the same thing. CSGO doesn't exist anymore, so I guess the CSGO specific features don't really matter at this point, like static prop combine, but whatever. I'm going to hit this button, and it essentially just does this. It presses this guy, and this guy, and then this guy. And if you control click it, yeah, then you can also have some options. So you can choose whether you want to immediately view the model after it's done compiling, or whether you want to do these actions to all of the models in the list if you have multiple in your file. I'm going to click this, which opens it in Half-Life Model Viewer in a second. It can be slow. I don't know why. Not a SourceOps problem, a HLMV problem. And there it is. It's a big box, and it's on the floor. So that seems to have worked correctly. There's no physics model. There's no textures. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to add is collision, because it's easy to do. So I'm going to duplicate this collection. There we go. And this guy is my collision. I'll rename this to ref and name this to Cole so you know. And I'll show you what the difference is. Right, here's the collision cube. Shade smooth. This is perfectly smooth shaded. No sharp edges. This is house and one second. It's which one was it? Convex, not concave. It follows the exact same rules as brushes in Source Engine. And make sure you're not using like auto smooth or something. You want it just regular smooth. So if I were to do, for example, this is concave. This will not compile. But if I then separate these, fill in this face, select this, hide this, fill in that face, unhide that. Now these are sort of two separate blocks that are both convex. So together, this is valid collision. I'm going to just undo that and keep it as a cube, though. So if you know how to make a brush, then you know how to make a collision mesh that is valid. And if you want to make a more complex mesh, you make it out of multiple things that are considered valid brushes. And there are tools. That is not the correct button. I forgot what the tool is called. But there's a tool for making automatic convex holes for collision purposes. Collision convex hole. Sorry, just Googling if I can find it. V-HACD, is that it? There we go, maybe. I think this is the tool, and so there's like a Blender add-on for this as well. V-HACD. But I prefer to just make the meshes myself most of the time anyway, because then you get a lot of control. But you know, if it's like a statue or something with organic forms, then it's easier that way. Right, I select the collision guy and I press this button, and then we open it in Half-Life Model Viewer. We are now 8 minutes into the video. Gosh, I sure know how to take a while. Anyway, there's the collision mesh. It looks correct. Cool. Let's do rigging next. So I will add an armature. And you select it as the armature. And then we make sure that both the reference and collision objects are parented to the armature with Control P. Armature deform with automatic weights, sure. So if I go into pose mode and I move this bone around, then these things move with it. Hiccup. That seems fine to me. This has a vertex group named after the bone, which is fine. Bone collections. That's a new feature that well, it's probably not new anymore, but I haven't really messed around or kept up with development for quite some time. Now I will turn on collision joints. So if you are making an animated model, you should probably tick this. Not always, it depends. If you want the collision static, but the model to be animated. So for example, a carousel that spins around, the collision would be something, circular, and it wouldn't need to be moving. But if it's a cube that spins around, of course, it does need to be moving. So let's select this thing, and maybe I will add a keyframe, but maybe not with that button, this button. Keyframe, rotation, And I'll add another one 30 frames later after rotating it 360 degrees. And then I guess I need to be in pose mode. Oh, we're using quaternions. And so nothing happened because they don't like that. That's fine. I'll just I'll just remove that keyframe and make sure that this is set to XYZ Euler. Right. Add a keyframe here. I don't actually need these channels, so I'm just gonna get rid of those. 360. Add a keyframe there. Okay, that's not the axis I thought I was spinning around, but other than that, we're good. Yes, the y-axis, of course. 0, 360. Not teaching you how to rig or animate necessarily. That's I hope you can find better tutorials for that purpose. So this does a little spin. It's not a looping animation because the if you check in the graph view, this is not linear. But you could make it linear by setting interpolation mode to linear. Now it could be a looping animation. We'd probably want this guy to be on frame 0. And then you would go, and we would start at 1. Good enough. So let's see. I will add a sequence here. I'll call it idle, sure, whatever. The action will be the armature action because it's the action of the armature. I haven't touched on, like, what are they called even? Sub-actions or something? Like the action inside the action. There, armature action, and in there you have one called armature. Just the top level action. These ones below it didn't used to exist when I made SourceOps, so I haven't messed with seeing how they work exactly. And you'll have to create a new top level action if you want a different animation on the same armature. I guess I'll have to show how to do that as well in a second. I'm not setting a custom frame rate, it'll just use the one that is set in the Blender project. I don't need to set a custom range, do I? I guess I do because it starts at 0 and it will include this frame. I'll check how it behaves, I guess. I do want this to loop. Oh, start frame must be identical to end frame when you're looping, actually, because it's Source Engine, so of course it has some goofy nonsense. You can tell it's been a very long time since I've worked on this, but someone wanted a new tutorial, so here it is. Let's see. Let's increase that to 30 FPS because I'm feeling silly. Button. Let's find out if it worked. Alright, well, it's spinning, and I'm not seeing any jumps around, so it seems to be looping correctly. And it's as simple as that. And then I'm going to set the physics model, and if you look carefully, you can sort of see these red lines. Can I pause this so it's easier to see? Wait, get back here. Okay. You see this, it still follows that because I turned on collision joints and because it's like correctly skinned to the armature and so on and so forth. So yeah, spinning animation. Yippee. Sequence. Speed. There we go. Instead of a pause button, you have a speed slider and that goes to 0 when it's paused. If you don't see your sequence play, check the sequence tab and drag the speed to 1. And if that doesn't fix it, then I don't know how to help you. Setting it to full screen made this yellow instead of red. That's just completely impossible to explain. Anyway. Not everybody is going to need animation, but everybody's going to need textures, so I should probably do that next. But I don't feel like it. Events. An event can, like, play a sound at a certain frame, for example. there's probably documentation about how this stuff works somewhere, but I don't really know much about it. I only used it to add some shooting sounds to weapon animation once. So let's see this. Hopefully it won't immediately destroy my eardrums, because on frame 15 it should play a shotgun sound, not sound, and it does. So yeah, that's one of the things you can use events for, is playing a sound at a certain time. I'm going to remove that because that's annoying. Attachments, this can also be used for view models. So you can, like, oh, it's attached to this bone and it's at this location, and then these things do something. Oh, if you hover over it, it tells you what it does. Parented to the model's origin. The offset is still relative to the bone. Okay. Declares that the bone this attachment is parented to will not move, allowing it to optimize it out. Used to convert bones created in a modeling package into attachments. Oh, okay, cool. So, it has its uses. Don't ask me. It's if you wanted to, if you have a view model and it, like a muzzle flash comes out of it, you would put an attachment at the tip of the model. I assume something like that. I haven't worked with search engine in many years, so I'm sort of guessing at this point. Particles. Oh, I didn't even write the code for this, I'll be honest. Someone else wrote this. I looked at it. It looked fine. I don't know anything about particles, so I hope this code even works. I assume the person who wrote it tested it, so, you know, there you go. Maps is a whole nother thing I'll get into another time. Simulation, I've already done a separate video on. Just go watch that one. There's no way that one's outdated by now. This was just some stuff that I found useful. Some, like, miscellaneous shortcuts, essentially. Let's do textures. Now, this is the difficult one. Everybody gets stuck on textures. You're not stupid for getting confused about textures. The source engine, it's hard, okay? It's just difficult. Let's go figure this out. Step 1. I'm going to hide the collision and the armature because I don't need that right now. I'm going to go to my cube. And I'm going to add a material. And then that lags Blender for some reason, because it's like compiling a bunch of shaders. Didn't used to do this a few versions ago. Don't know if it's something wrong on my computer. Whatever. We're going to the model SRC folder, for example. I'm going to go up. I'm going to go to materials. And for starters, I'm just going to pick a material. How about CS Italy? No. Cube maps? I don't know. How about this? Several colors. Not a lot of textures in here. Tile floor? Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so here I've got a VMT that I would like to use. So I copy the name of the VMT. That's now the name of the material without the file extension. Then, relative to the materials folder, it's in here, in the tile folder. Oh, this isn't going to be model, is it? This is light map generic, so that's not going to work. I'll just make a copy of it and call it vertex lit generic. Yeah, there. I'll just make a version that is vertex lit generic, and hopefully it'll work. Vertex lit generic. This can't possibly go wrong. So that's the name of that guy. Obviously, this isn't teaching you how to make your own materials yet. I'll do that in a second. I just wanted to start with an example of an existing material, but then I couldn't find any in here. Is there a model? Oh, there's a models. Oh, that's much better, actually. Props. Gameplay. Power-ups. Power-up haste. That could work. Let's take a look at that. Sure, that's fine. We'll use that one. In that case, I should probably go back a few folders and delete this thing that doesn't need to be in here. Okay. Relative to the materials folder is what we want, right? So models is a folder inside materials from there. So we copy that. We go to this tab, material folders. We add one and put that in there. Models, props, gameplay, power-ups. And then inside there, the file is power-up haste. So this is not the models folder. This is the models folder inside the materials folder. So not the folder with your MDL files. That's where this file happens to be. So now in theory, ta-da! Can it stop spinning? Regardless of what you think of this choice of texture, you can see that it is a texture. I've successfully added a material. See, it's not that hard. You just need to know the material folder needs to be, and the file needs to be, and then you're good. You can also, if you want to, for some reason, do it like that, and then no material folder. So you could leave the material folders empty, which means that it will just sort of do this. It will just create one that's just nothing automatically on export. It might even do that if you do have some. And then have the full path relative to the materials folder over here, and it should do the same thing. But I prefer putting the folder in here because it makes sense to me. I'm going to undo that though because I want it this way. And ta-da, yeah, so that's working as it's supposed to. Right, I'll show you how to make your own material because it's not so easy. So we'll go to materials, models, and then in there I'm just going to make a folder called example because this is an example model. In the example, in model/example, it's model.mdl, and here we're going materials, models, example. So that makes sense. These paths sort of have the same vibes, you know? So we're going to want a VMT and a VTF. So first I'll need a texture that I want to put on this cube. How about I go paint one, I guess? So texture paint. Add a base color texture. Call it texture. You know what, I'll call it model because the model is called model. So then the texture that goes with the model will be called model. Does that add up? I don't think I want an alpha, and boom. Sure, and then I'll just shrink that down, and I'll just draw a smiley here, and here, and here, and here, and the top one can be sad, and the bottom one is kind of ambivalent. That's not ambivalent enough. Nope, that's too happy. That's pretty ambivalent. There, wonderful texture, beautiful, couldn't be better. So that is applied in Blender right now, and so you can see it. This doesn't matter. SourceOps doesn't care about the contents of the material. Only the name matters. I am now going to press the wrong button. What has happened? I don't even know what that button did, but I'm going to go here to my texture, and I'm going to make sure it's saved somewhere. Do I maybe have a textures folder I could dump this in? Yes, I do. Good enough. Power save. Textures. There it is. So I need to convert this to VTF. VTF edit. Let's see. I have VTF edit installed. Apparently, somewhere. Okay, you can't just drag this in here. Interesting. Import. Can I do that? Textures. Okay, good. So, sure, let's set up a format that makes sense. Let's do DXT5 and DXT5 again. And you know what? Actually, the alpha one can be DXT5. This one can be DXT1, I think. You don't have to use compression, but... Oh, yeah, it actually says so right there what the common values are. DXT1, BGR888, and UV888. Huh. And here, common values are DXT5 and BGRA888. Why not RGBA? Why BGR? Well, apparently that's just what people do because it says so. It's not either of these, so it's that one. Mipmaps, I'll do Kaiser, sharp and soft because I think those are good. Normal map, no, I'm not going to do that. Resize, it's already a power of 2, so this doesn't do anything, but whatever. Sure. Okay, there's my texture. Wowzers. Truly fantastic. Next. I don't think any of this stuff really matters for what I'm doing here, so I don't care. I want to save this somewhere, so I will. There it is, model of VTF. So I'm going to cut this file, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to paste it. Now we have a VTF. Now I'm going to need a VMT. Does this program have a tool to make a VMT, or do I have to create VMT file? That needs to be a vertex lit generic. And I do not care, I think, about any of that other stuff. Let's see what happens. It made a VMT file. I'm going to take that, and I'm going to put it over there, and I'm going to close this, and I'll go open this. And, well, that's obviously not correct. But it makes sense that it would think that. So let's see. I think VMTs are, they refer to textures relative to the materials folder. So we've got momentum on playtest, momentum, materials, and then everything after that. So models, example, model.vtf. Actually, I'm not sure if the VTF part is even necessary. I'll try leaving that out and see what happens. I'm not going to do any other settings. I'm going to just try this out. So this guy I called model. Okay, this is important. You know what? I'll call this guy model VTF, and I'll call this guy model VMT, just so you can see what I'm doing. The VTF name matters here, inside the VMT. The VMT name matters here, inside Blender. And then the folder that contains the VMT relative to the materials folder. Sorry, that's the wrong guy. I need to edit it over here. This contains the model VMT. Okay, it compiled, but that doesn't really mean anything. Let's see if the texture actually loads. And if it doesn't, then that's fine too, because we'll debug it together. Well, just kidding, it loads fine. So, there you go. That's how you make a texture. If you want to know more about how to write a good VMT, go Google it. I hope you can find something, because I'm not really an expert in that anymore. I haven't messed with Source Engine in a long time, unfortunately. I've been making my own game in Godot, or Godot, however you want to say it. But that's not what this video is about. Oh boy, we're 28 minutes in. God, I hope I'm not boring you to death. Yeah, anyway, if it's a model, you probably want vertex lit generic. Base texture means it's where the color is. This folder is relative to the materials folder. This is the name of the VTF file without the extension. You might be able to put the extension and it will still work. I don't know, but you don't need it, so why would you do it? The name of this VMT is the name of the material in Blender. The name of the folder inside materials, like the entire path starting after materials goes into material folders over here. And that's how you export a material. Congratulations, you did it. Or a model with a material. This is self-explanatory by reading what it says. This is self-explanatory by reading what it says. This is a CSGO feature, which is a game that doesn't exist anymore. Rename the first material currently on your model when exporting. I don't remember why I added this, so like that exists apparently. Collision joints you want to tick if you have an animated model with animated collision. Prepend armature. Oh, multi armature models I don't think like exist anymore because I changed how SourceOps works to just only do one armature per model because it doesn't give as much headache for various reasons. But prepend armature can still be useful if your armature has a specific name and you want it to be that name dot the bone name. Let's see, ignore transforms. Yeah, if I tick this, then it will be like the box is actually over there. It has its uses. You can also sort of offset where your object is. This goes into the QC file, so it tells Studio MDL to offset your object. Rotation. Scale also goes into QC. That was pretty useful. Oh, I'm yawning, sorry. Skins. Great, very useful example. Space-separated list of VMT names supports quotes. The first line must be the materials currently on your model. So I think that means this needs to be this, and because there's only one material, there's no more. And then this guy can be example or whatever, because it doesn't exist right now. And then in theory, it should now have a skin called example that doesn't work. As in, like, doesn't exist. Error could not load material. That would be the second skin, because it was looking for example.vmt, which doesn't exist. Where are skins? Skin 0, skin 1. Ta-da! Skin 1. There it is. I didn't bother making a VMT for it, but, like, it... if it had been there, it would have been loaded, so that's good enough for me. These things do what they say they do, I'll be honest. You can hover things and it will just tell you what it does. Snap is useful for animations that, like shooting a gun. It needs to happen right away. It shouldn't blend smoothly into that motion from whatever the current animation is, because that would look kind of weird. I've already shown what events and attachments are. I don't know what particles do. I guess I can do maps next. It won't work in this version of Blender, so I'll have to load up a different version. Simulation. I can't be bothered. Yeah, I don't know. I hope this was useful to somebody. I'll quickly show the map export. I don't know when the last version was. I'll try 3.3 or something. They changed how things work, so like that's... It is what it is. I'll name it that, and brushes can be over there, and then I'm going to hit the button, and it seems to have not crashed, which is cool, I guess. Go to the map src folder. If you shift click, then it opens it in Explorer. Oh, there's my VMF. Do I have a hammer installed? I don't know, but it probably worked. So brushes don't need to be smooth shaded because the exporter knows that shapes belong together because they're attached. The reason that collision from models needs to be smooth shaded is because that's how Studio MDL knows that two vertices are attached to each other, is by checking that they have the same normal. So that's why you need to smooth shade them. Displacements are a little more complicated. So this mesh consists of only quads, and those quads are flat. You're with me so far, right? That's important. The same way that faces of brushes have to be flat quads when you're turning them into displacements in Hammer. Then we can add either a subdivision surface or a multi-resolution modifier. like so, and then I could sculpt on it if I wanted to. To make it some sort of potato. And then this exports, and I can't show you that it worked, but it probably did, because there's no error message. Why does it need to be with a modifier, you might ask? Fair question. There's a good reason for it. It's because SourceOps has no way otherwise of identifying which quad in the original mesh belongs to which set of quads in the subdivided mesh. And we need the quads in the original mesh because those will form the brushes that are turned into displacements. So you can make a displacement out of nothing. It is stored as relative to a brush face in the like VMF in the map format. This system is terrible in a lot of ways, but that's just what Valve went with. So you're gonna have to live with it. What else did I want to mention? Oh yeah, in a previous version, I think in the first version of the exporter, it tried to like walk through the topology and find valid combinations of quads to turn into brushes, and that had horrible downsides and was very, very slow. Then in the version after that, I think I had how do I put it? It used like the UVs to generate quads that were just like flat brushes, because I thought, oh well, you can displace a displacement as far away in whatever direction you want compared to the brush that it's made of. So why not? I'll tell you why not. It acts very weird in combination with decals, because the decals don't the decals are basically applied to the brush that lies underneath the displacement, so they look absolutely terrible. So you kind of have to have the face be at least somewhat similar to the quads that it turns into. The brush face be somewhat similar to the displacement that it turns into if you want decals to work even a little bit. So that's just how it is. Yeah, so every version of this exporter has had its upsides and downsides, and this ended up being the latest version I made. As for why it doesn't work in newer versions of Blender, it's because of this. Face maps. This is a feature that they added. I think it was mainly for sculpt mode purposes, I'm not sure. But for me, it allowed me to store information about faces in a very helpful manner, and that makes it so that this exporter can work. I'd have to like reinvent some other way to store it, maybe using generic attributes, which apparently already existed in 3.3. So this might have been for an even older version of Blender when they added face maps. Or some other way of storing the data. But I've been too busy and or lazy to actually do that. So that's why you can only export displacements from an older version of Blender. Sorry for the inconvenience. Okay, yes, I think that's everything. I hope this was a little bit helpful. Good day.